The usher has one hand on the velvet rope when Grant puts his palm against Elise Mercer's back and guides her into my family's theater box. "My wife approved the transfer," he says. He says it easily without looking over his shoulder. Inside the box, my mother-in-law is pouring champagne into plastic flutes. Marianne raises one toward Grant and the woman wearing my seat like a prize. "To new beginnings," she says, smiling as they wait for my signature. My phone vibrates in my hand. Permanent box license transfer request current license holder, Nora Vale. Proposed license holder, Elise Mercer. For a moment, the only thing I can hear is the paperless ticket scanner chirping in the lobby behind me. The usher sees me first. Her name is Dana, and she has worked the mezzanine level long enough to know that I take my coffee downstairs during intermission, and that my aunt used to arrive 40 minutes early because she hated entering after the orchestra had started tuning. Dana's fingers tighten on the rope. "Miss Vale," she says. Grant turns. He is holding Elise's coat over his arm. It is a pale gray coat with a wide collar, the kind of thing he once told me looked impractical when I tried on one almost exactly like it. Elise is beside my chair in a fitted black dress, touching the brass ledge as if she's already imagining where she'll set her drink. Marianne's flute stops halfway to her mouth. "Nora," Grant says, "you're early." It is such a stupid thing to say that I almost laugh. The house lights blink once, warning people to find their seats. Around us, programs rustle and shoes move over carpet. Nobody in the neighboring boxes is paying attention yet. Grant still has time to turn this into a private misunderstanding if I let him. I look at Elise. She is younger than Marianne and older than the interns Grant likes to complain about. Late 30s, maybe. She has sleek dark hair, a narrow gold watch, and the composed face of a woman accustomed to asking hotel managers to solve problems quietly. "Do you know he's married?" I ask. Grant says my name again, lower this time. Elise doesn't answer. She looks at him. That is answer enough. Marianne sets her champagne on the ledge. "This is not the place. You picked the place. Nora." Grant hands Elise her coat, suddenly careful not to touch her. "This is a business arrangement that got presented badly. By the transfer department?" The box is underused. "We were here 2 weeks ago. For us, I mean professionally." The orchestra begins its warm-up below, separate notes rising and colliding under the ceiling. I can see the back of my chair, the faded line in the velvet where Aunt June's bracelet used to catch. On the ledge rests her mother-of-pearl opera glasses. Elise must have moved them. June always kept them on the left beside the wall. They are now on the right next to Marianne's purse. I step past Dana. Grant shifts into the narrow aisle as if he means to block me, then thinks better of it. I pick up the glasses. They are cool and heavier than they look. One hinge sticks. I know exactly how much pressure it takes to open them. Marianne watches me place them in my evening bag. "You don't have to make a spectacle of this," she says. I look at the champagne in her hand. "You were in the middle of a toast." It was a courtesy. To his girlfriend? Elise's jaw tightens. "I'm going to leave." Grant catches her elbow. "No, you're not. Give me 5 minutes." There it is again, the instinct to stop her discomfort before he has even acknowledged mine. I turn to Dana. "The transfer isn't approved." "I understand," she says. Grant's face changes. Not guilt, calculation. "Nora, don't do that here." I didn't. The second warning lights blink. Below us, the last musicians settle. Dana opens the rope for me, and I step back into the corridor. Grant follows. "We'll talk after the performance." "You should stay. You've got my seat." "Nora." I keep walking. Behind me, Marianne says, "Grant, let her cool down." As if I am a pan she forgot on the stove. I make it to the ladies' room before my hands start shaking. The counter is cream marble veined with gray, polished bright enough that I can see myself in it. Navy dress, one earring slightly crooked, lipstick I put on in the car because Grant had texted that he was running late and would meet me inside. I had believed that message 23 minutes ago. A woman at the far sink dries her hands, checks her teeth, and leaves. The door swings shut behind her, muffling the bell calling everyone into the theater. I open the email again. The request was submitted at 4:18 that afternoon by Grant Bell. He identified himself as an authorized family representative and listed the reason as consolidation of patron and corporate event management. Elise's email appears beneath his. The transfer has been routed to me for verified electronic consent. He had not merely brought her tonight. He had filled out a form, found my patron number, selected permanent, not temporary, typed her name into the space where mine would disappear. There is an attachment labeled Spousal Acknowledgement. Grant has already signed it. I stare at his signature until the loops stop looking like letters. My phone rings. His name fills the screen. I decline the call. A text arrives immediately. Please don't leave. We need to discuss context. Then Elise is a major referral source. This is not what you think. Then, Mom should not have said that. I put the phone in my bag with the opera glasses. When I move, the metal barrels knock softly against my keys. At coat check, I hand over my ticket. The attendant disappears between the racks and returns with my wrap. Leaving already? He asks. I've developed strong feelings about the first act. He smiles because he thinks I'm joking. I envy him for exactly 3 seconds. Outside, October rain has made the pavement shine. Cars crawl past the theater beneath wet reflections of the marquee. Grant and I came separately because he claimed he had a meeting across town. My car is in the garage 2 blocks away under the monthly parking account I renew because he never remembers until the card stops working. I reach the corner before I realize I'm still holding both tickets. His is folded behind mine. At home, I leave the hall light off. The house feels staged without it, familiar objects reduced to shapes. Marianne's ceramic bowl sits on the entry table, holding the spare keys she insisted we needed when she began helping with deliveries. Last spring, I discovered she had made herself a copy after I asked for the spare back. Grant called it efficient. I set my bag beside the bowl. The opera glasses knock against the table. June gave them to me the year she transferred the box account into my name. We sat in her kitchen with a patron services representative on speakerphone while June stirred sugar into coffee she had already sweetened. Ownership makes people strange, she told me after the call. Access makes them stranger. I thought she was talking about the theater board, where 2 donors had been fighting over renovation plans for 6 months. June often sounded profound when she was actually gossiping. Now her sentence comes back in her dry, unimpressed voice. I go upstairs and change out of my dress. Grant calls twice. Marianne calls once. On the 3rd call from Grant, I answer. "Where are you?" He asks. "Home. You couldn't wait 10 minutes?" I waited 12 years. There is a pause. In the background, I hear the hollow acoustics of the theater stairwell. "Don't do this by phone. You called me." Elise left. "That must be hard for you." She was humiliated. I sit on the edge of the bed holding one stocking in my hand. "You are worried that the woman you seated in my box was humiliated." I'm explaining why I can't just walk out after her. "Of course. That isn't what I meant. It keeps happening to you tonight." He breathes out slowly. Grant uses silence as if he invented it. In business meetings, people rush to fill it and often tell him more than they intended. At home, it usually ends with me softening whatever I just said. I wait. Finally, he says, "Mom is coming back with me." "Why?" She's upset. "So am I, but apparently transportation is still possible." "Nora, she had champagne. I'm not putting her in a car alone." "She came with a driver." He left. "Then send her home with the car service on our account." Another pause. This one lands differently. "We need to sit down together," he says. "You and me?" "All 3 of us." "No." "She was involved in the planning. I know, I saw the toast." "She thought you were aware." "Did she?" "Don't turn this into a referendum on my mother." I look toward his empty side of the bed. His reading glasses are folded on top of a book he has been pretending to read since June. "Your mistress was in my chair," I say. "Your mother was pouring her champagne, and your complaint is that I'm making this too much about your mother. Stop calling Elise that." The words come so quickly that neither of us can pretend he did not choose them. I lower my voice. Are you sleeping with her? Nora. Yes or no? It's complicated. No, it's grammar. He says nothing. How long? The physical part is recent. The physical part. A phrase built to drag a curtain across everything before it. How long? Since August. It is October 18th. I think of August in ordinary pieces. Grant asking me to find Marianne a cardiologist who took her insurance. Grant needing the blue suit cleaned overnight. Grant kissing my shoulder in the kitchen while I made reservations for the launch dinner of his new corporate events package. There's a little paper calendar on the refrigerator where I write theater dates in blue ink and his client dinners in black. August had been crowded. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he says. Come alone. I told you, Mom is... If your mother uses her copied key tonight, I will call a locksmith in the morning. His voice hardens. That's her emergency key. The emergency appears to be that I said no. I hang up. They arrive together 34 minutes later. I hear Marianne's key enter the front lock while I am standing in the kitchen. She opens the door and steps inside first, still wearing the black beaded jacket she saves for opening nights. Grant follows with his tie loosened and rain darkening the shoulders of his coat. Marianne puts her purse in the ceramic bowl. We're not going to accomplish anything if you behave irrationally. I look at Grant. You brought her. She is involved. She helped you give my family's box to the woman you're sleeping with. That makes her evidence, not a mediator. Marianne takes off her jacket with offended precision. I knew about the business proposal. I did not know the details of Grant's personal relationship. Mom, what? I'm not lying for you, Grant. It is the first surprising thing anyone has done all evening. Grant stares at her. Marianne drapes her jacket over a chair and turns to me. He told me the marriage had been strained for years, she says. He said you had separate lives. We bought patio furniture together last month. That does not indicate passion, Nora. Despite myself, I laugh. Marianne blinks, unsure whether I have insulted her. Grant puts both hands on the kitchen island. Can we talk about the actual issue? I wait to hear which issue he chooses. The box has become essential to Bell House events. Elise has connections I don't have. She can bring in hotel groups, law firms, private banking clients. Putting the license under her management would let her package performances directly. Under her management, I repeat, it wouldn't prevent you from attending. My hand closes around the edge of the counter. He believes this is reassuring. You would have access whenever you wanted, he continues. We'd block out your dates first. My dates. Your personal dates. Marianne steps in gently, which is worse than when she attacks. You've always said the box should be used. June hated empty seats. You don't get to use June. I knew her. She tolerated you at intermission. Marianne's mouth thins. Grant straightens. The theater requires one administrative name. That's all this is. Then use mine. Elise needs autonomy to close clients. And you need to sleep with her? His face goes flat. Those are separate questions. No, they're separate answers to the same question. What question? What does my marriage protect? For once, Grant has nothing prepared. Marianne looks away first. Her gaze settles on the refrigerator calendar, dense with black and blue ink. She reaches for the practical because that is how she survives shame. There are 3 client performances next month, she says. 4, I tell her. Grant glances at the calendar. In blue, I have written the opera June loved on the 23rd. In black, around it, are Grant's promises. 12 seats for Calder Group, lounge for Pierce dinner, champagne for Fenwick, valet codes for Mercer Prospects. He has sold November around me. My phone vibrates on the counter. Another message from the theater asks me to approve or decline the transfer. Grant sees the screen light up. Don't answer that tonight, he says. I pick up the phone. His eyes follow my thumb. I press decline. The screen asks me to choose a reason. I select license holder does not consent and hit submit. Grant moves around the island. You didn't even read the terms. I read her name. You're reacting to the affair and making a financial decision out of anger. My financial decision is that I'm keeping the thing I pay for. We pay for it. The renewal comes from my account. That doesn't make it exclusively yours. The license does. Marianne makes a small sound through her nose. She has always distrusted any document that produces an answer she does not like. Grant plants his palms on the counter again. Bell House has deposits tied to those performances. Then Bell House should have secured the venue before accepting deposits. You secured it. For us. I reserved dates because you asked me to. As my wife. Yes, that position is no longer accepting assignments. He stares at me. Behind him, the refrigerator hums. The ordinary sound makes the whole conversation feel indecent, as if we should at least have the courtesy to break our marriage somewhere appliances cannot hear us. Marianne reaches for her purse. I'm going home. Good, I say. Her hand stops. Grant says, Nora? I want the key. What key? Marianne asks. The one you used 30 minutes ago. That is for emergencies. So is the fire extinguisher. You don't carry that in your purse. She looks at Grant, waiting for him to correct me. He rubs his forehead. Just give it to her for tonight, Mom. For tonight? I'll deal with it. There it is. Not we'll discuss it. Not it's her house, too. He will deal with my boundary after I calm down and restore everybody's preferred arrangement. Marianne digs through her purse and produces the brass copy. She places it on the island instead of handing it to me. I hope you understand what you're doing, she says. I'm beginning to. Grant walks her to the door. I hear her whisper, do not let her provoke you into something irreversible, as though the permanent transfer form had filled itself out in a fugue state. When he returns, I have moved the key into a drawer. Where am I supposed to sleep? He asks. It is almost charming the way he can make logistics appear before remorse. The guest room. We should talk. We did. You issued rulings. You brought your mother to the discussion. You wouldn't have listened to me alone. Were you planning to tell me you slept with Elise more persuasively? He pulls out a stool and sits. Without his jacket, he looks tired and oddly young. His tie hangs open. I remember buying it in Boston because he had spilled mustard on the one he packed before a conference. He had called me from the hotel bathroom, laughing while he tried to rinse yellow out of pale blue silk. That man is still in front of me. That is the problem. Betrayal would be easier if it erased everything that came before it. Elise was not supposed to be in the box tonight, he says. Who was? Clients. She changed the plan. Did she pour her own champagne too? Mom was trying to keep things from being awkward. Your mother brought 3 glasses. He looks toward the dark doorway. She knew Elise would be there, I say. She just didn't know I would. I didn't know you would. You said you might be late. I said 10 minutes. I thought you'd meet Leah for a drink first. Why? Because you usually do on openings. I study him. You planned this around my routine. No, I made an assumption. You knew where I would be, when I would arrive, which elevator I would take, and how long I usually spend downstairs. That's more than an assumption. He looks exhausted now, but exhaustion is not honesty. I need time, I tell him. Fine. And I need access to the joint statements. You have access. The Bell House card is linked to your login. That's a business card. It auto-pays from our joint checking account. He stands. I'm not doing an audit at midnight. Then send me the login in the morning. He leaves the kitchen without agreeing. I wait until I hear the guest room door close before I go to the entry table for my bag. The opera glasses are beneath my phone, one pearl panel glowing faintly in the screen light. I carry them upstairs and put them in the top drawer of my nightstand. Grant's reading glasses remain on his side of the bed. I leave those where they are. At 6:40 the next morning, an email from the theater confirms that the transfer request has been denied. A second email asks whether I want to review the authorized access list connected to Box C. I make coffee before I answer. I toast 1 slice of bread and burn it because I am reading the list on my phone. Grant Bell, Marianne Bell, Tessa Ward, Bell House event coordinator, 3 rotating guest authorization slots, all added by me over the past year because Grant said clients disliked waiting in the patron services line. I remove Grant and Marianne. I leave Tessa until I understand which existing events she is managing. Then I change the patron portal password. Grant comes into the kitchen while I am scraping the black edge off the toast. Did you lock me out? Of the portal. My password isn't working. It wasn't your password. He opens the refrigerator, stares into it, and closes it without taking anything. I have a breakfast meeting. Then you should eat breakfast. I need the Calder guest list. Tessa has it. Tessa has the names. You arrange the seating. There are 12 seats. I'm confident in both of you. They have 2 partners who can't sit together. Put one on each side of Marianne. He almost smiles. For 1 second, the joke reaches the version of us that used to trade terrible suggestions while setting dinner tables. Then he remembers where we are. The Calder performance is binding, he says. They paid. I'm not canceling it. Good. I'm also not working it. Nora, come on. I mean it. Tessa can confirm tickets, order catering, distribute parking codes, and explain to anyone who shows up late that the lobby doors are closed during the overture. You've already built the template. It's in the Bell House shared folder. You know Tessa is overloaded. Then hire help. With what margin? I take my coffee to the table. Now we've reached the financial decision. He leaves without breakfast. At 9:15, Tessa sends me an email with a subject line that begins, "Quick favor." She is good at her job and young enough to believe a favor can remain quick after it crosses into someone else's marriage. Her message asks whether I can confirm the Calder seating plan and whether Marianne prefers sparkling or still water in the box. I type 3 answers before deleting them. Tessa, I'm no longer coordinating Bell House events. All existing files are current through last night. Grant will handle revisions and approvals going forward. Best? Nora, she replies in under a minute. Understood. I'm sorry. I cannot tell which part she is sorry about. Grant sends nothing. At noon, the login for the business card appears in my inbox without a message. I spend my lunch hour in a small conference room at work with the blinds tilted shut. I manage collections for an architectural archive, which means I make a living proving where things came from, who handled them, and whether the story attached to them is true. Usually the objects are blueprints, models, letters, or boxes of photographs labeled in handwriting that is faded to brown. Grant's statements are easier to read. The charges begin innocently enough. Parking near the Halcyon Theater, drinks at the restaurant across the street, flowers from a shop Elise uses for hotel events. Some are marked with client names in the memo field. In August, the pattern changes. Opaline Hotel, $684. Dinner at Sorel, $312. A second Opaline charge 11 days later. A jewelry store charge for $240, categorized as client appreciation. The theater's annual patron renewal appears in September. Grant moved it from my personal card to the Bell House card without mentioning it, then let the business card auto-pay from our joint account. I call the card company and remove my personal account as the backup payment method. I do not close anything. I do not dispute the charges. I download 12 months of statements and save them to a folder with the transfer request. At 3, Leah appears at my office door carrying 2 coffees. She works downstairs in conservation and has never respected the calendar system. You missed lunch, she says. I ate crackers from 2019. Those belong in the archive. They're stable under normal humidity. She sets 1 coffee beside my keyboard, then looks at me properly. What happened? I turn the card statement face down. Leah's expression changes. Is this about last night? What do you know about last night? Marianne called Ruth before intermission to complain that you had abandoned the box. Of course she did. Marianne can turn a locked bathroom into a communications center. What else did she say? That you misunderstood a business guest. Did Ruth believe her? Ruth once watched Marianne send back soup because the spoon looked judgmental. A laugh escapes me. It hurts enough that I press my lips together. Leah pulls out the chair opposite mine. Nora. He's sleeping with the business guest. She does not reach across the table or make a sound. She sits back slowly and says, I'm going to need the crackers. I tell her only what happened at the theater. I do not tell her about the hotel charges or the permanent form. Saying those things aloud would make them available for other people's reactions, and I have no room for those yet. When I finish, she looks down at her coffee. That was why I stopped going, she says. What was? Your box. I blink at her. Every time you invited me, Marianne ended up needing my seat for somebody useful, her dermatologist, a committee chair, that woman who sells the olive oil. Celeste. I hate Celeste. You said you had evening classes. I took one pottery class. The rest were lies. I should be offended. Instead, I remember apologizing to Marianne whenever Leah canceled, embarrassed that my friend was unreliable. She told me you didn't mind, Leah says. She said you understood family obligations. The sentence fits too neatly into an old bruise. That evening, I receive a call from Marianne while I'm buying a new lock cylinder at the hardware store. She does not greet me. I am standing in the Halcyon lobby with Ruth and Celeste. The olive oil woman, of course. The usher says I'm no longer authorized. You're not. I have had Saturday matinee access for 9 years. You had my permission for 9 years. Ruth came all the way downtown. Ruth lives 6 subway stops away. There are available seats in the orchestra, but that is hardly the point. No, it isn't. Her voice drops. You did this to humiliate me. I did it because you helped Grant give away something that wasn't his. He was trying to keep his business alive. With my box. With a family resource. I balance the lock package against my hip and move aside for a man examining cabinet hinges. What part of it was yours, Marianne? She goes quiet. The invoice, I ask. The license, the annual donation, the scheduling? Which part had your name on it? I brought people. You brought people I seated, fed, and cleaned up after. I gave that box life. You gave my seat away. She hangs up. By the time I get home, Grant is waiting in the kitchen with a printed copy of the patron agreement. Several sections are highlighted in yellow. You had my mother turned away. She called you. She called everyone. That sounds like a busy car ride home. He does not smile. He slides the agreement across the island. Section 8 allows the theater to suspend a license during an ownership or authority dispute. There is no ownership dispute. There is now. I look at the highlighted paragraph, then at him. I notified Patron Services that the box has been integrated into a marital business and paid for with shared funds, he says. I asked them to freeze changes until we resolve it. The hardware store bag slips against my leg. You challenged my license. I protected existing contracts. You froze the box? Temporarily. My eyes move to the calendar. November 23rd, written in blue. June's opera. Grant follows my gaze. He knows exactly what the date means. We can clear it up in a day, he says. Approve the transfer with a written reservation for personal performances. Elise gets administrative control, you keep your dates, and the suspension disappears. The theater email arrives before he finishes speaking. Pending review, all access to Box C is suspended. I read the email twice, although the second reading does not improve it. Grant reaches for my phone. I pull it back. This is leverage, I say. This is procedure. You created a dispute so I'd sign. I notified them of a legitimate business interest. You told me an hour ago the license didn't matter because the transfer was only administrative. Now you're claiming it's a marital asset. Both things can be true. Only if words don't mean anything. His jaw shifts. He looks at the hardware store bag in my hand. Were you really going to change the locks? Yes. On our house? One lock. Your key would still work. My mother's wouldn't. That is the feature I paid for. He looks down at the highlighted agreement as if there might be a kinder wife printed beneath it. The Calder event is in 9 days, he says. If this suspension holds, we owe them a refund and damages. What does the contract say? I'm not discussing client contracts with you while you're hostile. Then stop using them as threats. It isn't a threat to tell you what your decision will cost us. There is that word again, us. It arrives whenever a bill does. I fold the printed agreement along the crease he made and slide it back to him. You should call Calder. You should call the theater. I will, in the morning. Nora, every hour matters. So did the hour you spent drinking champagne in my box. He takes the agreement and leaves. A few seconds later, the guest room door closes hard enough to rattle the picture in the hall. I install the new lock myself. The instructions contain 6 drawings and almost no language, which feels considerate. At one point, I drop a screw inside the door and have to take the whole plate off again. By the time the deadbolt turns smoothly, it is after midnight. I test Grant's key. It works. I test Marianne's brass copy. It does not. That tiny mechanical fact gives me more comfort than it should. Patron services opens at 10. I call at 10:01 and spend 7 minutes listening to a string arrangement of a song I cannot identify. A woman named Celia Moreno answers. Her voice has the calm, unhurried quality of someone who speaks to donors for a living. I've reviewed both submissions, she says, after verifying my account. Your license record is clear. The issue is the extent of commercial use and whether Mr. Bell was acting with your authorization. He had permission to host guests. Was Bell House Events paying you for use of the box? No. Did the company advertise the box as part of its services? I didn't know it was. Keys click on her end. Mr. Bell provided proposals and invoices showing theater hospitality packages. I arranged 4 performances for him this season. He submitted documentation for 11 over the last 2 years. I close my office door. 11. I picture the calendar pages Grant tore off and threw away, black ink disappearing into the kitchen trash 1 month at a time. Some may have been dinners before performances, I say. He invited clients when we already had seats. That distinction is what the review committee will consider. What happens to my dates? They remain suspended until the review. November 23rd is personal. It has nothing to do with Bell House. I see the reservation. My aunt took me to that opera every time the Halcyon staged it. Celia's voice softens by half a degree. I understand why that matters. Can you release one performance? I can request an exception, but Mr. Bell's filing asserts that all current reservations support business obligations. For a few seconds, I cannot speak. He included that date? Yes. I look through the glass wall of my office at a cart of rolled drawings waiting to be cataloged. A paper label hangs from one tube, tied with cotton string. Everything in my working life stays where it belongs, because somebody takes the time to name it correctly. Send me whatever the committee needs, I say. The review meeting is next Thursday. Both parties may provide records and a statement. Until then, neither of you can use or modify the box. What about the transfer request? It is denied. A new one would require your consent after the suspension is lifted. That should feel like a victory. Instead, all I can see is November 23rd sitting inside Grant's claim like a hostage. An hour later, Tessa calls. I know you said you're out, she begins, and I respect that. I just need to know where you saved the hospitality riders. Shared folder, events, each client name, then vendor. There isn't a vendor folder under Calder. Did Grant move it? He says you never uploaded it. I open the Bell House drive. My access still works. Calder contains the contract, guest preferences, seating diagram, and a draft menu. The vendor folder is missing. I search my email and find the message I sent Grant 3 weeks earlier with the subject, Calder Rider, Final. He replied, got it. I emailed it to Grant on September 27th. Silence. Tessa? I'm here. Forwarding it now. Thank you. I send the attachment to both of them, then I remove my access to the Bell House drive. Tessa calls back before I can put down the phone. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. He's telling people you withheld files. Now you know where the rider was. Another silence, different from Grant's. Tessa is not trying to make me fill it. She is deciding how much danger the truth carries. Calder asked for proof of venue authorization, she says. Grant told me not to send anything until he talked to you. Because he doesn't have it. Okay. I'm sorry you're in the middle. So am I. She ends the call politely. That evening, Grant is waiting beside the refrigerator calendar. He has circled the Calder event in red. You removed yourself from the drive. Yes. That looks deliberate. It was remarkably hard to do by accident. You left Tessa without operational support. You left Tessa without a venue. He taps the red circle. Calder is threatening to pull the entire annual contract. What does the contract actually promise? A private performance experience, catered reception, executive hosting. Does it name Box C? It references premium theater access. Access you didn't secure. I had it for years. You had me for years. He looks at me as if I have shifted the floor under him. I didn't understand that everything came with an expiration date, he says. Neither did I. The quiet after that is less satisfying than I want it to be. He takes a container from the refrigerator, checks it, and puts it back. Did you eat? I ask. The question leaves my mouth before I can stop it. Grant notices. Of course he notices. No, he says. There's soup. Your mother's? My mother has been dead for 6 years. I meant your recipe. You know that. I know. He heats the soup. I hate him while he stands at the microwave, and I hate that he still knows to cover the bowl with a plate so it will not spatter. Marriage is 1,000 tiny proofs of attention, apparently none of them strong enough to prevent betrayal. When the microwave beeps, he says, Elise thinks I should cancel Calder. Then cancel it. She thinks the review will make the theater relationship unusable even if you sign. That sounds like professional judgment. She's furious with me. I'm having trouble locating my sympathy. He leans against the counter with the warm bowl between his hands. I told her we were functionally separated. We were sharing a bed. We weren't close. Were you waiting for me to notice the function had changed? His eyes dropped to the soup. I didn't plan for this to happen. You planned where I'd sit after it did. I go upstairs before he can answer. The opera glasses are in my nightstand. I take them out and work the stiff hinge back and forth with my thumb. June used to complain that the right lens slipped out of focus, then refused to let the repair shop touch it. She trusted damage she understood. Under the glasses is an envelope from the Halcyon, yellowed at the corners. I kept it because June wrote Nora, box, in black marker across the front. Inside are the original license transfer confirmation, the annual patron terms, and a note from her on hotel stationery. You'll remember to use it. Don't let Marianne schedule Thursdays. I had forgotten the note. I sit on the bedroom floor and laugh until the laugh folds into something else. The next afternoon, Elise emails my work address. I don't know how she found it until I remember the museum gala Grant brought her to in September. She had introduced herself as a potential venue partner. I had spent 20 minutes showing her the archives reading room while Grant took a call. Her message contains one sentence. I think we were both given incomplete information, and I would like 15 minutes. I wait until the next morning to answer. We meet at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the Halcyon, far enough from my office that nobody will mistake it for professional. Elise is already seated. Her gray coat hangs over the back of her chair. Without the theater lighting, she looks less polished and more tired. She does not apologize when I sit down. I'm not here to defend what happened, she says. That saves time. I knew he was married. The bluntness lands cleaner than an excuse. He told me you had agreed to separate after the holidays, she continues. He said you were waiting because of finances and his mother. His mother? She doesn't handle disruption well. I almost smile. That part is true. He said the box was used primarily for Bell House, and you didn't want the administrative burden anymore. He showed me proposals. We were building a theater package for 3 hotel clients. And the transfer? His idea. You filled in your information. Yes. You plan to sit in my chair. Yes. She wraps both hands around her coffee. Her gold watch catches the window light. I thought you knew, she says. You toasted to new beginnings with his mother while waiting for my signature. Marianne toasted. I was trying to decide whether leaving would make things worse. You stayed. So did you for 12 years. I lean back. Elise shuts her eyes briefly. That was cruel. It was accurate. I don't know enough about your marriage for it to be accurate. No, you know what he told you. A server sets down my coffee. Neither of us touches the sugar between us. Grant says you're trying to destroy his business, Elise says. I stopped working for it. He says the box was a shared investment. The license predates him. I paid the renewals until he moved the last one onto the business card. Her eyes lift. He told me Bell House had paid for 5 years. He lied. He said you approved the commercial packages. I approved guests. I never saw a package. She looks toward the window where a delivery truck blocks the view of the theater. Did he tell you the transfer had to happen before opening night? I ask. He said your signature was routine. He submitted it early because the hotel group wanted proof of control. That's why you were there. I was supposed to photograph the box for a presentation after the performance. The humiliation finds a fresh shape. My chair was not only meant for her, it was a prop for a sales deck. Elise takes a breath. I'm withdrawing from the packages. That is between you and Grant. I know. She waits, perhaps expecting gratitude. I have none available. As I stand, she says, he blames me for submitting the request too soon. You said it was his idea. It was. He completed most of it. Then why blame you? Her mouth curves without humor. Because you're still more useful to him than I am. The review packet from Celia arrives that afternoon. Grant has submitted Bell House invoices, 2 years of event calendars, the business card payment, and an 8-page statement describing the box as a jointly developed hospitality asset. He mentions my work 43 times but calls it administrative support incidental to marriage. My annual payments before September are absent. So are the emails where he asked me to work my magic with caterers, guests, donors, and the theater staff. I print everything. For 3 nights, I build a chronology at the dining room table. I do not embellish it. The plain facts are bad enough. License transferred from June Vale to Nora Vale. Renewals paid from Nora's account. Guest permissions granted at specific performances. Bell House materials created later. No written authorization for resale, commercial packaging, or transfer. Grant watches the piles grow. On Wednesday night, he sets a contract beside my laptop. Calder will stay if we confirm another venue and refund 20%, he says. We can cover it if you authorize a transfer from savings. How much? He tells me. It is not ruinous. It is enough to hurt. Is that the full refund? Yes. Show me the account. His mouth tightens. You don't trust me. I've recently received some context. He opens the laptop. The business has less cash than I thought. There are deposits for 3 events after Calder, all tied loosely or directly to the Halcyon. If the clients leave, Bell House does not disappear, but Tessa's salary and the office lease become problems within months. I sit back. Grant's voice becomes careful. I made bad decisions. I am not asking you to forgive them tonight. I'm asking you not to turn those decisions into a chain reaction that hurts other people. Tessa, yes. Your vendors, yes. Your mother. He looks away. And Elise? She's pulling out. I know. That surprises him. I close the account screen. Move Calder, refund them from Bell House. We need the savings transfer. I'll agree to half if the repayment is documented and you remove every reference to the Halcyon from future packages. Nora, half. Because our joint account received some of their deposit and because Tessa shouldn't lose her paycheck this week. Not because the box was yours. He studies me with an expression dangerously close to relief. Then my phone lights up. Elise has sent 9 screenshots. In the first, Grant tells her the marriage is over. In the third, he promises the box will be hers by opening night. In the 7th, sent after I declined the transfer, he asks her to tell the Halcyon that I gave verbal approval months ago. The 9th says, If Nora thinks you acted alone, she'll focus on you instead of the business. Grant sees Elise's name at the top of the message. What did she send you? I turn the phone face down. The next morning, we enter the Halcyon through the administrative doors. Grant carries his contract binder. I carry June's envelope, my chronology, and the opera glasses wrapped in a soft cloth. Marianne is waiting by the elevators in my vintage evening wrap. Celia opens the review room door. Grant leans close to me. You can still sign. I look at his mother wearing something else she never asked to borrow, then at the binder full of promises built on my permission. I know, I say. Marianne lifts her chin when she sees me looking at the wrap. It was cold this morning, she says. That was in my upstairs closet. Grant brought it to me last winter. Of course he did. In our marriage, my belongings apparently traveled through a private lending program. Celia gestures us into a room with a rectangular table, a coffee machine, and framed photographs of the Halcyon before its restoration. 2 other people wait inside, the director of patron relations and a board member whose name I recognize from annual letters. Nobody looks excited to be there. Marianne chooses the chair beside Grant. I sit across from them. Celia begins with the license record. Her language is polite and dry. June transferred Box C to me 9 years ago. I accepted the patron obligations. My account remained in good standing. Bell House used the box repeatedly with my authorization, but the authorization was never formalized as a commercial agreement. The board member folds his hands. Mr. Bell, did you understand that the license prohibited resale? We didn't resell tickets, we sold hospitality services, which included access to the box as one component. Did the license holder approve that use? Grant glances at me. My wife arranged the events. That was not my question. I believed she approved. The patron relations director turns to me. Did you? I approved bringing guests. I ordered food, made seating plans, and helped with parking because Grant asked me to help him entertain clients. I did not know he was advertising control of the box or taking deposits against future performances. You had access to Bell House records, Grant says. I look at him. Because I filed them for you. You saw the proposals. I saw the ones you sent me. He opens his binder and removes a glossy sheet with photographs of the Halcyon lobby, champagne, and a view of the stage from Box C. I recognize the photograph. I took it before a performance because Grant said Tessa needed a picture for an invitation. The heading reads, Bell House Signature Theater Experience. My photograph, his signature. Grant slides the sheet toward the board member. This was developed with Nora's participation. I took a picture for an invitation. You arranged every part of the experience. Work is not ownership, Grant. I didn't say it was. You called it incidental to marriage. The phrase lands badly. Even Marianne looks at him. Grant turns a page in his binder. We are getting distracted by language. Nora and I had an established practice. Bell House relied on that practice. The transfer would have placed administration with a qualified event professional while preserving Nora's personal access. Elise Mercer, Celia says. Yes, the proposed new license holder. Yes. What authority did you have to initiate a permanent transfer? My wife had expressed frustration with the workload. I wait for him to look at me. He does not. Did she ask you to transfer the license? Celia asks. Not in those words. The board member leans back. Which words did she use? Grant's fingers rest on the binder ring. She said she was tired of handling everything. I remember saying it at the kitchen sink after Marianne invited 14 people to a reception built for 10. Grant had kissed the back of my neck and promised the next event would be easier. I was tired of the labor, I say. He transferred the asset attached to it. Marianne shifts in her chair. This has become unnecessarily adversarial, she says. The box has always been treated as a family space. I've hosted there for years. Grant has hosted there. Nora never objected until personal resentment entered the picture. Celia gives her a neutral smile. And your relationship to the license? I'm Grant's mother. The smile does not change. Thank you. Marianne colors. Grant says, the affair is irrelevant to the license. I agree, I say. That gets his attention. I take the transfer request from June's envelope, followed by the renewal statements and my chronology. The affair explains why he wanted Elise in the box. It doesn't decide who controls it. These do. I pass the records across the table. Grant's expression loosens slightly as if he believes I have chosen the smaller fight. Then I set down printouts of Elise's messages. The false statements matter too. He goes still. Celia reads the first pages. The board member reads over her shoulder. In the quiet, the coffee machine clicks and begins heating itself for no reason. Marianne looks at Grant. What false statements? He says nothing. I read the relevant lines aloud. Grant promising Elise the box by opening night. Grant telling her my signature was routine. Grant asking her to confirm that I had given verbal authorization. Grant suggesting that if I blamed her, I would not examine Bell House too closely. Marianne's face changes at the last one. You told her Nora would focus on her? She asks. This was written under pressure. You used her as a shield. Mom, stop. Marianne sits back. The wrap slips from one shoulder, exposing its silver lining. I wore it the night Grant launched Bell House in the back room of an Italian restaurant. I had stood beside him checking names at the door while Marianne occupied the center table. Celia gathers the printouts into one stack. Ms. Vale, what resolution are you requesting? I want the suspension lifted. I want Bell House removed from the authorization list, and I want the theater to reject any future commercial use of the box unless I request it in writing. What about the existing events? The Calder event has been moved. I agreed to contribute half the refund because part of their deposit entered our joint account. I won't guarantee any other Bell House obligation. If money connected to a specific event entered an account I control, I'll return that amount. The promises attached to it belong to Grant. Grant's chair creaks. You know the other clients will leave, he says. They bought access you couldn't sell. They bought an experience we created together. Then create one somewhere you're authorized to use. He lowers his voice. You're willing to burn the business over this. No, I'm willing to stop standing inside it while you call me furniture. The words come out quieter than I expect. For the first time that morning, Grant looks less angry than afraid. Celia asks us to wait outside while they review the records. In the corridor, Marianne removes the wrap and folds it over her arms. I did not know about those messages, she says. I believe her. It changes less than she wants it to. You knew about Elise. I suspected. You poured 3 glasses. I was trying to make an impossible evening civilized. For whom? Her hands tighten on the velvet. Grant has been struggling, she says. He needed Elise's connections. He needed something to work. So you helped him give her my box. I thought you'd keep your performances. You thought I'd keep whatever portion of my own life they left me. Marianne looks toward Grant, but he is several yards away, speaking rapidly into his phone about Calder. I spent years introducing him to people, she says. Do you think anyone invites a widowed woman to those rooms because they want her there? They invited me because I brought Grant, and then because Grant brought the box. I was useful. The honesty surprises me more than it softens me. You were my family, I say. You didn't have to be useful. That's easy for you to say. You had June. You had the box. You walk into a room and behave as if your place has been saved. My place was saved. You kept giving it away. Grant's voice rises behind us. His replacement venue wants payment by the end of the day. Marianne glances toward him automatically. I hold out my hand. The wrap. She looks down at it. For a moment, I think she will refuse simply because surrender has never been part of her idea of dignity. Then she gives it to me. Celia opens the door 20 minutes later. The committee's decision is careful rather than dramatic. The license belongs to me. The evidence does not support Grant's claim of shared authority. The suspension will be lifted after I sign an acknowledgement that future commercial use requires advance approval. Bell House is barred from using the Halcyon name, photographs, or box access in its packages. My November 23rd reservation will be restored. Grant asks whether he can appeal. The board member says he can submit new evidence. Grant looks at Elise's messages on the table and knows there isn't any. Outside, the rain has stopped. Marianne asks Grant for a ride home. "I have to deal with Calder," he says. "It's on your way." It isn't. "You said the replacement venue was uptown." "Mom, call a car." She looks at him as if impatience is a language he has only ever spoken to me. I put the wrap and June's envelope in my bag. The opera glasses no longer fit, so I carry them. Grant follows me to the curb. "What happens now?" he asks. "I go back to work." "I mean with us." "I know." He reaches for my arm, then lets his hand fall. "You made your point." "That's what you think happened in there?" "I lost the Halcyon. Calder may still leave. Elise won't answer me. My mother thinks I betrayed her." "You did. I protected the business. You protected every person who wanted something from me. That's unfair. You let your mother into our house after I asked for the key back. You let clients use my time because hiring someone cost too much. You let Elise sit in my chair because she had connections. Every time I objected, your solution was for me to become easier. I can fix those things. You challenged my license so I would lose June's opera unless I gave you what you wanted." His face closes. "That," I say, "is what our marriage protects." A cab pulls up. Marianne opens the rear door and waits for him to pay the driver. Grant looks from her to me. I leave him on the curb. He moves out 10 days later after discovering that separation inside the same house means I am still close enough to ask where every charge came from. He takes the guest room lamp, 2 suits, his reading glasses, and the espresso machine he bought me for an anniversary and used every morning. He leaves the book on the nightstand. Bell House refunds 2 clients and loses Calder's annual contract. Tessa finds a full-time job with the replacement venue, but continues helping Grant by the hour. He gives up the office, runs the company from a rented desk, and returns to smaller dinners and corporate retreats that do not depend on somebody else's keys. The business survives. It simply stops looking larger than it is. Marianne calls me once about her ceramic bowl. I leave it with the doorman at her building. After that, she directs her emergencies to Grant. He lasts 3 weeks before setting limits on matinee rides, medical scheduling, and last-minute dinner guests. Elise sends a final message saying she has ended both relationships, personal and professional. I reply that I received it. There is nothing else for us to exchange. Grant tries again after Thanksgiving. He waits outside my office with coffee from the place we used to visit on Fridays. He looks thinner. His suit fits badly at the shoulders. "I'm in therapy," he says. "I'm glad. I understand things now that I should have understood before. I take the coffee because refusing it would turn the cup into a symbol, and I am tired of objects doing all the work. I miss you," he says. "You miss the life. I miss both. At least it is honest. He tells me he can change. I believe that he might. People change when staying the same finally costs them something, but belief is not consent, and improvement is not repair. I hope you do," I say. "You'll need it for whatever you build next." On November 23rd, Leah meets me beneath the Halcyon marquee wearing earrings shaped like tiny hammers. "For pottery," I ask. "Self-defense." Dana lifts the velvet rope when we reach Box C. Inside, the chairs are exactly where they should be. I put the mother-of-pearl opera glasses on the left side of the ledge and smooth my fingers over the worn velvet of June's seat. Leah hangs back. "Which chair is mine?" I point to the one beside me. "Are you sure Marianne isn't bringing an olive oil emergency?" "She can buy a ticket." The lights begin to dim. I pick up the opera glasses before anyone else can move them and keep them in my own hands.